Hey, everybody, welcome back to another daily drop here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI publisher Andrew Jones, and the topic today is not Carolina basketball, which we have almost done exclusively the last 5 weeks or so. This is Carolina football because the transfer portal is about to open, but quite frankly, it already exploded the last few days as former Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava kicked down the door to the transfer portal, took the front page by storm, quite frankly, on Masters weekend and with a lot of other things going on because of what happened with him at Tennessee. I'm sure most, if not all of you, understand or know a decent amount about what took place. I'll do a quick snapshot. No need to go deep into what happened in Knoxville, but he wanted more money. He was set to make $2.4 million. He wanted more money. Basically, didn't show up to practice, threatened to hold out. Tennessee said, adios. We're not putting up with this. So kudos to Josh Heupel for making that decision. And I say that because programs cannot be held hostage by players. In professional sports, it happens to a degree, but it cannot happen in college. The dynamics of a locker room in college are far different than in pro sports. I've covered both college and pro extensively, and I understand that. And I think Heupel made the right decision. But that doesn't mean that Nico Iamaleava is the wrong guy for every program. It just meant that it came to a point at Tennessee where it could no longer happen there. So now where's he going to go? He's got a lot of talent. He's a winner. Tennessee went to the CFP last year. He's experienced, and he's a guy that needs to go somewhere where he's going to be the man right away, because I don't think you can have Nico Iamaleava in your program if he's not the man, because that's not going to work well. We've just seen that. But he also needs to go somewhere that might help him get rehabilitated in the public eye and in the eyes of NFL general managers and scouts. I'll get to that in a second. Very quickly, 6'6", 215 pounds, the number 2 quarterback in the class 2023. Last year at Tennessee, he completed 63.8% of his passes, 2,616 yards, 19 TDs, 5 interceptions. He ran for 3 touchdowns, solid legs. There's a couple highlights out there. One in particular, NC State, where he's running for a touchdown. I wouldn't say anybody has ever thought about running the triple option with him behind center. But he could sling it. There's a significant upside there. And the fact that Tennessee was able to get in the CFP with him makes him very appealing to a lot of schools. Now, the question, though, is what schools, have the need. When I say that, for example, I heard SMU's name thrown out there. They're not moving away from Kevin Jennings. They can't do that. What that could do to that locker room would be devastating. Could be devastating. There are a lot of programs like Oregon. They like what they have. That people are mentioning him with, that it just may not fit. So you have to start narrowing down the programs. Okay, this program has an absolute need. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, this program has the means to bring a guy like that in. That's number 2. Number 3, this program has a head coach that will be the head coach of Nico Iamaleava and not in a situation where Nico and his people call the shots. That's number 3. Number 4, he needs to be in a situation for him where he's at a highly competitive level. I don't think it would make any sense for him to drop to a G5 level. Let's say Colorado State said, hey, we'll throw $3 million at you, $4 million. But what good does that do Nico? Not to demean Colorado State, but it's not a power conference. So you're looking at power conferences that have a need, an absolute need, a need where it's worth bringing a guy like this in, and everybody else in that room looks around and says, we totally understand. Number 2, they've got to have the cash, because I don't think he's going to get what he asked for. He and his people made a bad financial decision, a bad business decision, because he's lost a lot of his leverage. But he's still going to cost you some money. Number 3, do you have a coach who will be the man in charge, who will not be pushed by Nico's people? Quite frankly, a guy so in control, so respected, that Nico's people will shut the hell up and just let it happen. And number 4, do you play at a level that can help him continue his ascent and get him further prepared for the NFL? Those are the 4 questions to ask. And I can answer those 4 questions. Number 1, North Carolina has a need. I was at practice on Saturday. Been around this program a while. I think Bryce Baker is going to potentially be a phenomenal quarterback someday. He was rated higher coming out of high school than Drake May and Sam Howell. Does that mean anything? I don't know. Carolina got a commitment from a running back that was a Clemson lean over the weekend. Rivals, which is a network we're in, has him as a high 3-star. Everyone else has him as a 4. And people are getting ticked off at us because, all right, we have in the headline 3-star running back, blah, blah, blah. So the rankings are what they are. Go ask Todd Golden in Florida with his starting lineup this year how much high school rankings mean to him. Okay. That said, Bryce Baker just showed up in January. You can only take so much from watching a practice. And previously we got to see maybe 3 practices in a spring game in the spring and then a lot more in the fall. We didn't get to see as much. So I can't really tell you if Bryce Baker is ready to be the guy. I can tell you that it's hard to believe that Bill Belichick came to college in his 70s with a win right now mindset to hand the keys over to an 18-year-old. I just don't see that happening, but it very well could happen. Ryan Brown, the transfer from Purdue, is a solid-looking player. I thought that he did a nice job with a lot of checkdowns and short dump-offs. He looked like a very well-schooled quarterback the other day. And by the way, going back to Bryce Baker, the talent's obvious, the talent's there. He threw the nicest ball I saw all day. But going back to Ryan Brown now, he was the backup on a Purdue team that went 1-11. That's a red flag. Fair or not, that's a red flag. Those are your 2 healthy scholarship quarterbacks. Max Johnson's not ready to play and may never be ready to play. I know he put out a video last week that made people think, wow, maybe he's ready now. Maybe he's the guy. But I asked Bill Belichick last month about Max, and there was nothing definitive in his answer. Nothing remotely definitive. Basically, we'll see when we see. So it was as open-ended a response as you'll ever get. And it remains that way. But based on what I saw the other day, he's still limping a little bit. He's got that big wrap on the leg that he'll probably always have. And he didn't take any reps in anything remotely competitive. So it's hard to envision Max Johnson being ready to go when TCU comes to town. A 4th quarterback on scholarship will arrive this summer in a Torrey Newkirk from the Tidewater area. Very much an under-the-radar kid, but I've been told there's a chance they may move him to another position. And he's certainly, if Bryce Baker's not going to be ready, it's very doubtful Newkirk's going to be ready. He didn't have a lot of schools beating down his door. So my point is, North Carolina needs a quarterback. I was going to do a daily drop after watching practice. When I say after Saturday, absorb some things, and maybe today or tomorrow I was going to do a daily drop. Said, hey, is North Carolina's quarterback in Chapel Hill right now? I don't think the answer is yes. So if North Carolina has a need, and there's a guy out there who led his team to the CFP, if you're UNC, you have to at least be interested, curious. Okay, number two, does North Carolina have the money for a Nico Iamaleava? The answer is yes. One of the things that I was very impressed with, how Michael Lombardi and Bill Belichick went about the portal back in the winter, is because they had all this cash at hand, they didn't just throw it around. They were very frugal. They shopped. They looked at price tags. If you were to walk by, if the portal was a department store, like a clothing department store, you would have seen Michael Lombardi and Bill Belichick, looking down the sleeve of a leather jacket or whatever kind of jacket or shirt to see the price tag. Flip that little tag over. And maybe there's a red mark on it with a new price on top of it. And then you look up at the rack and it says, take an additional 25% off. Rich people are good shoppers. It's one reason they're rich. And Lombardi and Belichick have spent their entire careers spending rich people's money. But they've had to also do so within a window. And at Carolina, even though there's a ton of money there, there's still a window. So they went out and got players that were good deals. And because of that, and I've said for a while, I thought that there's a chance they'd be pretty active here in the spring because they would know what their needs are. And I do think this roster needs enhancements in certain areas. O-line, D-line, another linebacker, maybe another receiver, another running back, and absolutely a quarterback. So Carolina has a need, and Carolina has the cash. The next thing is, does Carolina have the kind of coach that can handle Nico Iamaleava? Absolutely. You've got Tom Brady's coach. You've got a curmudgeon who knows how to get a ton out of players. You've got a guy who brought in Randy Moss, and that worked. You've got a guy who is the most respected person in the sport, in Bill Belichick. The most respected. The fact that North Carolina is everywhere has everything to do with Bill Belichick. Not just the curiosity factor. That wears off after a while. But it's the respect factor, and this guy may well do it. For example, Rivals hadn't run Carolina football recruiting stories on the front page in a while. We ran two this past week from National. We run them on the front page all the time. Bryant Balcom does a great job getting that information. National wrote two stories that we used on our front page about Carolina football recruiting. That's the effect and the impact of Bill Belichick. Respect is across the board. And he's the kind of guy, the kind of coach that any player who comes in with the kind of tag a Nico Iamaleava would come in with, he's the kind of coach that can say, okay, dude, here's how it's going to be. We need you, you need us, but we don't need you so badly, just like Tennessee didn't need you so badly. So for Carolina, there's a need for Iamaleava. He needs to be rehabilitated, and he could show NFL scouts and GMs, I could play for Bill Belichick. And if Bill Belichick signs off on him next November or December and says, this was great, this was a great experience, this is a wonderful kid, every NFL team that has a needed quarterback would be wise to pick him. If that plays out, what a great marriage this would be. And the final thing is the level of play. ACC is not terrible in football. It's the butt of jokes, but it's not terrible. Quite frankly, I think it's been better in football in recent years than in basketball. And I don't think there's any question about it. But you can get to the NFL as a top 3 or 4 pick, slinging it around in the ACC. We've seen that already. And we're going to see it next week or in 2 weeks as well. So the needs at play here for Nico Iamaleava and for North Carolina, those 4 main boxes check. So to me, it makes sense. Bill Belichick came to North Carolina to win. It's not a hobby. It's not a retirement game. It's not, hey, shuffleboard, but it's football. He came to North Carolina to prove something. And he's going to do everything he can within the rules, and that makes sense. And that check off his judgment to do that. That's why this would make a lot of sense. I don't know Nico Iamaleava. I've never met him, never seen him in person. Have no idea. He and his people could just be a bear to deal with and too much to deal with that's not worth it for a head coach trying to acclimate to the college game. But he's dealt with guys. He's dealt with massive egos. He's dealt with holdouts. He's dealt with all those things. So is Michael Lombardi. So is Freddie Kitchens, the quarterback coach, who was the head coach of the Cleveland Browns in 2019. These guys have a ton of experience with this. One of the benefits of having a heavy NFL staff is they've been around this already. It's not just teaching from an NFL level. It's dealing with the kinds of personalities, attitudes, and players that college football is going to see more and more of. So this makes a lot of sense both ways. I have no idea if it's going to happen. I know there was some crystal ball. Kevin Roy, the great Kevin Roy, he wanted me to mention him on the podcast. I'm just kidding. And by the way, Kevin's doing much, much better dealing with his cancer. He actually shot photos at the spring event on Saturday. First time he's been out in Chapel Hill in a long time. So awesome that the power of prayer has been so great for Kevin Roy and THI, because he's a huge part of what we do and massive part of what we do. But Kevin sent a text saying that, so I don't even know who it was, someone had a crystal ball or a prediction of Iamaleava to Carolina. I mean, there's a lot of predictions that go out there. I don't pay too much attention to them, but I know parsing through this all morning long, coming to the point where I'm doing this podcast, tells me that this would be a good move for both parties. It makes a lot of sense. And it would also change Carolina. Iamaleava is not great. He's very good. In fact, Paul Feinbaum, I saw where he said on ESPN, after all this stuff occurred last Friday and Saturday, that he was asking his quote-unquote sources around the SEC to rank where Nico Iamaleava would be as quarterbacks in the SEC, and he said between 6 and 8. So it's not like this is Drake May or Sam Howell. But if you just project and look at paper, it would be a significant upgrade from where the Tar Heels are. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Let me know what you guys think. Are you a Carolina fan that says stay away? Don't deal with that. Just run with what you got. Or are you a Carolina fan that says, yes, go get him. Strike. If you have an opportunity to get a guy like this, you cannot back away from him. You must be aggressive and pursue him. Or do you have a different take? Or do you say, wait and see who else enters the portal at quarterback, and maybe you spend less to get someone who doesn't bring the complications, and that frees up more money for other positions, because they do need to get some defensive linemen for sure. Hey, this is fun stuff. This is exciting stuff. I did not expect to do a daily drop about Nico Iamaleava today, but I am. And it's fascinating to see how this thing is going to play out. Let me know your thoughts. Go ahead and click like on this video. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. We're pushing for 25,000 by the start of spring or fall football, And we're going to give away more freebies. We've already given away a bunch. We're going to give away some more. If we hit our goal, one of the new subscribers can win free subscription to Tar Heel Illustrated. And make sure you tell all your Carolina friends that we're here. Not enough Tar Heel fans know we're here. Let them know we are here. I'm AJ, and I appreciate you stopping by.